Hi guys, Tungsten here. So today we have a new blaster to look at. This is the BK2S blaster over here. Now I do have the BK1S over here, which is a slightly longer version of this blaster that we are looking at today. But for today, we'll just look at this particular one. That's the BK2S. Now this blaster is on loan to me by Black Reason, and basically it costs, I believe, around 175 SGD, that is Singapore dollars. So you do your own conversion, you should roughly know how much it costs, and I believe they do ship internationally. Right, so this blaster itself, what it comes with is a box of darts, which basically most likely you will not be using it, you'll be using your own version of your darts. And then it does come with one magazine. Now the first thing to take note of, this magazine is not compatible with the worker magazine. You do have to have their own magazine. It is of a different size and different configuration, so you do have to take care of that. You have to get a set of it if you want to run a game. It does come with one rail over here with the M-lock system, whereby you can attach to the side or the bottom of it. So that's your choice, right? So this blaster itself, it is not that big in terms of size itself. If we were to measure it, it's about 50 centimeter, I would say. And in terms of visual itself, if you were to compare with the Cheetah, worker Cheetah, you can see that it is actually not very big. But well, that could be an advantage if you are basically playing an indoor, very close quarters game, and that could be an advantage for not having a very big blaster. And of course, the trade-off is the performance will not be that high in terms of the firepower itself. Right, so the overview of the blaster, the front of the blaster is actually metal material. Okay, the rest of it is actually plastic over here. Right, it's an AEB, that means you have to have a LiPo battery, which is not included. You have to buy your own LiPo battery, and this is the one that is given to me. Right, so the installation of the battery itself is actually at the back of the stock. Over here, there's a button over here whereby you press and then you remove this, or now this is also the button for you to configure the length of the stock that you want. You remove the stock itself, and then you continue to press it down, and then you should be able to remove this portion, and this is where you're going to fit your battery itself. Right, okay, so I will be loading in the battery and then give you a run through of the basic operation. Now this is the jam door. If you open it up, you can see actually the port itself, the material inside, okay, is actually not metal, but the gear itself, I believe, is metal gear. Right, so this is more or less the quick run through of the visual kind of exterior of it. We will load in the battery and we'll look at the operation, and then we'll look at the FPS, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this blaster itself. Alright, so now that I have gotten the battery into the battery compartment, now just a little tip. So if you have problems like getting this thing to catch, it's always good to use this simple tool and just press it down and then slowly adjust it. It will be easier for you to kind of lock it inside. Right, so once you kind of load up the battery itself, okay, to switch on the blaster, you switch it to single mode. Over here, just press the trigger once, you'll hear a beep sound. Right, so it's a pop pop pop. Right, so that means your blaster is now switched on. Right, so when the first time you switch it on, okay, you'll find that the charging handle, there's still resistance. You can't really pull it back, okay, without a lot of force, and you're not supposed to pull it back first. So the very first time, right, so you just load and then just press your trigger once, you load. Right, so this is the very first time when you first load the battery, when you first switch it on with the beep 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 sound. That's what is going to happen. Right, if you are not using, of course, during the game, okay, then you go to safety. Of course, you want a single shot, you put on to single shot, and when you press the trigger, you fire off once. Every time you fire off just once. Right, so to switch it to full auto, of course, it's all the way to the A, and the switch is only on the left side, and this so-called magazine release is only on the right hand side. And it's actually, my hand is not that big, so I have a little bit of problems reaching it, but nevertheless it should be okay. Switch it to full auto, press it all the way. Okay, so that is roughly basically the so-called fire rate. It's not that high, but I believe it's more or less quite serviceable. Alright, so now there is another mode. If you switch to single and you press and hold it, for a few seconds, you hear one beep sound. You fire off, of course, one dart. You hear a beep sound, and now it becomes a double shot. So every time you pull the trigger, you become double shot. Okay, as you can see over here, and to switch it back, you can press it down and hold it until you hear the beep sound. Okay, you fire off, of course, beep sound, and now it's back to single shot. Right, something like that. Right, so these are the various modes of the blaster itself. Right, so it doesn't really detect kind of like the when the magazine is empty, but if it's empty, then once you reload, you can actually, of course, use a charging handle to kind of charge this time around, because it will not be in that of a resistance because it's already primed, right? So it should be quite free for you to kind of charge it this time around, and then you can fire off, okay, when you are kind of in a single shot, something like that. Right, so yeah, so now what else? Now if you are experiencing a jam, of course you remove. Now if there's a jam, let me just pull the charging handle to halfway through to simulate a jam over here. Now when you press the trigger, you actually hear beep 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 beep. It doesn't fire off. So I believe this is actually quite a good feature. When you have a jam, it actually so-called it will not allow you to fire off the blaster until you kind of clear the jam. Everything is done, you load in your magazine, everything is good, then you fire off. Yeah, so this is more or less the operation of the blaster itself. The last thing, and a very important thing, is basically, as of now, this charging handle is quite, when you pull back, there's not much of resistance because it's already primed. The spring is already compressed. You don't need to there's no resistance. And you do not want to store your blaster in this manner. And how do you get deprime it? Well, you press and hold it there. Now you hear the first beep, you continue to hold. Okay. Then you continue to hold until you hear the second beep. Okay, there's two beep, 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 and then you release. Now this will be deprime, and to check, basically you just pull the charging handle a little bit, you realize it's of a much resistance. That means the spring is now released, as you can see. Okay, and then you can remove your battery and then store your blaster. So this should be the way you keep the blaster. Remove the battery, of course, or else you'll be drained out and you will not be useful anymore. So this is how you operate it. So we're going to go for an FPS test, and then when we come back, I'll show you a little bit. We'll remove the front part as well as the back of the blaster to let you have a look, and then I'll talk a little bit on my thoughts on this blaster. Alright, so now you have seen the FPS, and what I did was I removed the battery, I deprimed the blaster, removed the battery, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the rest of the stuff for this particular blaster. Now the front itself, you have one screw over here, one at the bottom, one at the other side. If you unscrew it, of course you can remove this portion over here, and you have access to the barrel itself. Now of course this piece over here, you can just screw it open, and then okay, you can release the so-called this barrel over here, but what I want to show you is over here, the barrel itself, there is a kind of a groove over here, right? Okay, that is their own clip over here. So then there's an O-ring to kind of cushion it. Now that means if you want to replace it with your own barrel, there might be a little bit of a difficulty. You have to find a way to basically secure it at this position, okay, with something. Okay, as you can see, this groove. So it's a bit different from the kind of common barrel that we have over here, right? And then the back piece over here, there's this knob over here. I believe if you were to remove all the way, okay, and you probably can kind of remove this portion, and then you probably can find a kind of a buffer tube adapter to replace it if you do not like the stock itself, right? Something like that. So these are the few things to take note of when you are looking at this blaster. What are the various things that you can do with it, and then what are things that you might find difficulty, or you have to do a little bit of modding yourself, in order to kind of use your own barrel itself, right? So that will lead me to the thoughts of this blaster itself. Of course, it is not the highest of so-called power in terms of power level, but I believe the size is actually quite nice for a close combat, right? So if that's something that you're looking for, maybe that is something that you can take note of. In terms of functionality, I think it's quite okay so far. I did not experience any jams or whatnot. Of course, it doesn't have the fancy things like detecting the ammo empty or ammo count or things as such, but I don't think that is really the kind of the most important. Given the price point, of course, you expect a little less on the functionality side of it, right? So this is yeah, so that is more or less about it. One gripe I have is basically this switch over here, right? So you have the safety, you have the 1, you have the A, kind of it's quite difficult to access, and there is a high prone of you kind of missing it, and then you see, put it here, okay, instead of 1, and it's at 1 kind of is jutting out like this. Yeah, so I would much prefer if it is more of like a strong click, or it stays there, it doesn't like float away, and then you messed up your mode itself. So that's one of my gripe. Other than that, the grip is not the best of feeling, of course, right? Other than that, given the price point, if you're new to so-called the hobby itself, there are lots of AEB that's a lot more expensive. If you want to just try things out, this could be a good first kind of offering. But of course, if you want a higher performance, look out for my next review on the BK2S. That is a slightly longer blaster, and in fact I believe the performance will slightly increase because of the longer barrel itself. It does get to accelerate more before leaving the barrel itself. So yeah, so this is my review on the BK2S. I hope you like it, and I'll see you in the next video.